Hey, greetings everyone. I hope that this finds you safe and well. This is the seventh Sunday after Pentecost, and our lectionary reading for today comes from Colossians chapter 2, verses 6 through 15 and 16 through 19. And I really want to key in on the 16 through 19 verses. But before I read those verses, I want to tell you a story and then see if I can tie those verses back into this story. So a few years ago, there was a Christian music festival that was called Cornerstone, and it was in Bushnell, Illinois, near the town where I was living. And it was this huge thing. I mean, there was thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and all the famous bands from every type of music genre that was there. Bands that were trying to make it, triple platinum album bands were there. It was in the hot summer, and it was just this wonderful, joyous event that was really cool to be able to be part of. When I was able to be part of it, because a year or two later it was over. They just had stopped it just for some financial reasons, I guess. But while I was there, the one thing that I noticed is that there were groups of people that were hanging around the areas. So the areas had different types of music, and the people would camp in those areas, or they would just hang out in those areas. And those types of people were drawn to one another by the types of music. And if you walked into some of those areas, you would say there's no way in the world that these people were Christian, because they didn't look Christian, they didn't talk Christian. There were people that were just doing some things that Christians shouldn't be doing. Now, this is coming from a background, a Christian background that is kind of the mainstream, Baptisty fundamental type kind of ideas that says this is what Christianity in America looks like. And I'll tell you that it was me going to that festival that started things in my mind. It was breaking paradigms, and it was causing me to really question and think about a lot of things. And so I was volunteering there, and because I was older than most of the other volunteers, one of the things that my task was to drive to the Peoria, Illinois airport, pick up these, stars, and bring them back to Bushnell. And then that's what I did all day was I drove back and forth. And in between me driving, I could go hang out, catch some shows, and then I could stay after driving, after my volunteer shift, to listen to the bands and wander around and visit and talk with people. And then there was this one particular time that I pick up this guy, and he's from England, and his ministry was that he went to raves, and he got on the set to be able to play some electronic dance music at these raves, like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, all hours of the night. And there'd be thousands and thousands of people out there dancing to this music. And then he would give a positive, Christ-centered message, not only in his music, but he would do like a sermon in between his music sets. And he and I were talking, and he had just finished a record deal, signed it in Nashville with a famous record label. And as his custom was in the country that he was from, after signing a record deal or signing a big deal like that, he went to the 7-Eleven. He got a 6-pack of beer. He went back across the street to this major Christian record company, and he brought it into the conference room where he was, just got finished signing this, and everybody's in there and high-fiving and back-slapping, and then pulls out the beer. And he told me that his contract was almost canceled then. And he said it was because of the problems that they saw with him bringing that beer in. Now, I don't know how many people were in that room. I don't know if it was 4, 5, 6, but he intended on celebrating by sharing a beer with the rest of the people in the room. I asked him what he thought the biggest differences between American Christianity and European Christianity were. And he said we were just wound too tight. He said we had too many rules, and that it just was a mess. Now, granted, some of you are saying, well, those rules are good and those rules keep us safe. They let us know, how we are supposed to interact and how we're supposed to react and be with Christ. They let us know what Christ wants from us. That's what we tell you, and that's what people say the rules are for. But listen to what Paul told the Colossians, starting in Colossians chapter 2, verses 16 through 19. I'll stop at 18 maybe, but it says, "Therefore, don't let anyone judge you in regard to food and drink, or in matter of a festival, or a new moon, or a Sabbath day. These are a shadow of what was to come. The substance is the Messiah. Let no one disqualify you insisting on aesthetic practices and the worship of angels, claiming access to a visionary realm and inflated without cause by his unspiritual mind." So you see, Paul is warning us, as he was warning the Colossians, thousands of years ago, about how we would start making these rules and we start judging people by what they ate and what they didn't eat, what they drank or what they didn't drink, or what days they worshiped on, or whatever. Now, granted, we could all find some biblical thing about don't drink or don't do this or don't do that. Got it. That's not my point. My point is we get wrapped around the axle about this, and we make everything about Jesus harder than we should. And it's really, let's not even talk about the don'ts, but there's some of the do's, right? You have to dress like this or act like this, or you have to do this in church, or you have to sing this way in church or play this type of music. But that's not what it's about. Christianity is not about how you dress or what you drink or don't drink. And the Bible does talk a lot about how much you drink or don't drink, but it doesn't really say what you can or can't drink. And Paul kind of takes that one step further and says, hey, don't judge people by what they eat or drink. But on the flip side of that, it's not about your fancy shows or your intricate ceremonies as well. That's the part that Paul was talking about in verse 18, about insisting on ascetic practices and worshiping angels, claiming access to a visionary realm. I don't know how many Pentecostal services I went to where someone else was claiming some type of special spiritual knowledge that nobody else had. And they were trying to lord that over everybody. But that's not what Christianity is about either. If you really want to know what Christianity is all about, Paul said it. He says, all those things are shadows of what was to come. The substance is the Messiah. So really, it's about Jesus. It's all about Jesus and where your heart is at with Jesus. It's your heart and Jesus. So love God with all your heart, and of course with your mind and your soul, and love your neighbors as yourself. But it's that simple. Love God. God bless you. Have a good week.